another guest waiting in the wings that we want to share with everybody. Do you want to go ahead and intro?
Sure. I hope I pronounced this correctly. Miyah Sundermeyer. She is, as you mentioned, Shannon, she has a podcast herself. She is the host of Hello World with Miyah, which is available on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. She is currently employed at the Center for Leadership and Disability, which is housed in the School of Public Health at Georgia State University. And she is joining us today. Thank you for being on the show, Miyah.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be back. Now, last time I was on the show, I was 38. I'm 40 now.
Oh, my goodness. You're a baby. You're a baby.
Your hair looks fabulous, too.
Yeah, last time I was on, my hair was really short, remember?
I do, and I don't remember it being this beautiful color.
Yeah, I dyed it recently.
It's gorgeous.
And yeah, it is. It's just an honor to be back. But anyway, speaking of podcasts, what I'm planning on doing is I'm trying to go on a podcast tour. I'm trying to get on other people's shows because number one, I want to promote my podcast, Hello World with Miyah. I've been doing my podcast now for about 2 years. I mean, I did vlogs before that on YouTube. And then I just gradually moved into blogging on WordPress. And then I started doing the podcast in late 2019 after being a guest on somebody else's show. And then the pandemic hit. And I just decided to start my own, I can't think of the word right now, but I just started to, I wanted to improve the podcast. So I started having guests on the show, and I've had Temple on at least 2 years in a row now. I mean, I had her on in 2020, and I had her on in 2021. The first time she was my surprise mystery guest. And the name of that podcast is called I Can't Stand Itchy on an Airplane, after one of the things she talked about. And then the second one was about her book, The Outdoor Scientist. And both of us had a really great time talking about that. Like, she and I talked about Sputnik and a few other things.
Miyah, tell us what else you cover on your podcast. Tell us what it's all about.
So the objective of the podcast is to raise autism awareness and acceptance. I believe you cannot have one without the other. In my motto, my theme is called Taking Middle Grounds, or that's my campaign. And I'm not even just talking about raising autism awareness or autism acceptance, at the bigger levels. There's self-awareness and self-acceptance. I mean, some people like to use a third A, autism action, but I'm sticking with taking middle grounds. And I'll talk about anything. For example, I would like to give my 2 cents on what's going on with autism in the media. One of the things that I talk about, for example, is you guys were talking about the theory of mind. Or I also talk about issues related to employment. I talk about issues related to the unwritten rules, just all kinds of stuff, but it's mainly related to autism. Sometimes I also talk about civil rights things. Like I've been on there and I've talked about the Holocaust, and I've been on there before and I've talked about what is it, March 1st? Is it the National Disability Day of Mourning? I've covered a couple of those days as well. So it's mainly about autism, and I just have different topics. Like Temple and I talked about sensory, and then we also talked about science. So,
well, fascinating. When we talked about you coming back on the show, one of the things that you said was that you wanted to talk about your dating life. I don't want people to think that I'm just being rude and presumptuous to ask you. You said that you'd like to talk about that and what's happening in your dating life right now. So tell us what you want to tell us.
So one of the reasons why I want to come on here and talk about my dating life is because I think this is really important for people on the spectrum too. Because there are a lot of individuals on this, like myself, who want boyfriends or they want girlfriends, but they don't really know how to connect with other people. They don't really know the unwritten rules. And so one of the reasons I want to go on a podcast tour is I'd like to talk about my experiences. And I really have never had a serious relationship until 40. But basically, I met my boyfriend quite a few years ago. We were friends first, and he's also on the spectrum. And then he also has cerebral palsy, a very, very, very mild cerebral, very, very mild. You can't tell. And then he also has epilepsy. And so, anyway, he had a huge crush on me years ago, and he kept hinting, "Would you go out with me? Would you go out with me? Would you go out with me?" I mean, it's a long story, but I finally said yes. So, but before that, uh, you know, before that, it was just really stressful, and it was a struggle for me to find a significant other or to find a boyfriend. And for me, I had issues with understanding what a boyfriend was and understanding when and where it would be appropriate to go out with somebody. And back when I was a teenager, one of the issues I struggled with was understanding the difference between a boyfriend and a friend, and understanding that you have issues such as like there has to be a mutual agreement between two people. For example, when I was in middle school, uh, there was another boy who went to school with. We hung out all the time, and the other kids kept pressuring us. "Hey, Maya, you think you'd go out with him? You think you'd go out with him?" And in the beginning, I said no, while he just kept telling everybody, "No, I'm not interested. We're just friends." And after a while, I ended up taking it seriously. And so I just automatically started calling him my boyfriend when he didn't really like me back to begin with. And he just didn't have those type of romantic feelings back. And in fact, he ended up liking another girl, and he ended up asking her out. And so I was mad. I was going around calling calling him, excuse me, my boyfriend, when he really wasn't. So those are some of the things that I think we need to discuss, is understanding what a relationship is versus what they're not, and understanding that somebody's really interested in you or not, and then also understanding that dating comes with lots of little nuances and a bunch of little social cues. So those are some things I'd like to talk about on the podcast. Not just my experiences of dating and understanding when and how things should be done and learning how to find common grounds as a couple, but I would also like to reach out to the autistic community as well.
Maya, as an adult woman in the spotlight, what do you want people to know about autism in this Autism Awareness Month of April?
Well, I think one of the things that I want people to know is that I think I was just talking about this, and I think this should probably apply to, I guess, what I want them to know is that not every autistic lives up to the stereotype, and I think that autism awareness is right now it's coming out of Autism Speaks, which is fine, but sometimes I feel like autism awareness is at the corporate level, and I think that there's very little information because you get snippets of information in commercials like Autism Speaks, and autism awareness, I think, should be spread at the community level and not the corporate level.
Right.
How can we do that, Maya?
Well, I've talked about this in my podcast. I think we should have more town hall meetings. I think we should have more meetings and more support groups within homeowners associations. And I think that the meetings should be run by people who are on the spectrum, as well as siblings and parents that completely understand, and they have the attitude of empowerment, and just a community building type of a deal.
I love that. I love that. Now, you mentioned that you wanted to do a podcast tour. Where are we on the tour? Are we the first? Are we the middle? Are like, how's it going?
Well, you guys are the first right now. You're the first right now, My second podcast is going to be with someone else. I forget his name. I was supposed to meet with him today. Was supposed to meet with them earlier, but that didn't really work out. But you're the first today.
Okay.
So I'm
well, we'll
super
take it.
excited. Yeah.
We're excited, and I hope that your tour goes really well. Can you tell people where to find your podcast?
Well, right now, I mean, you can go to helloworldwithmiyah.podbean.com. That's helloworldwithmiyah.podbean.com. Once you hit that page, you can learn more about me and the show. You can also look for me on if you just want to listen, you can listen in on Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify. You can also listen in on Google Podcasts and the like. And then if you want to be a guest on the show, there is an application. I have not posted anything in there about requesting me to be a guest on the show. So I think that's something I need to work on this week so that more people can be interested in the show. But I definitely have applications if anybody wants to join.
Miyah, you mentioned that you interviewed Temple Grandin twice, and you talked a little bit about talking about Sputnik. And what were some of the other highlights of your interviews with Temple?
Well, some of the highlights, it's been a while since I've listened to them, but I think some of the highlights was when we talked about sensory issues together. And actually, I've known Temple for quite a few years now. I met her back in 2014, long before the pandemic. And I met her through a series of other networks. But she and I also talked about some employment. I remember that. And then we also talked about things that people can do, like looking in their backyards at different types of science. So, yeah, I always become fascinated. I get excited every time I turn on Facebook. I mean, even if it's archived, you'll see me typing in the chat, "Hi, Temple. Hi, Temple." Like, that's how excited I get. I always get inspired to and motivated to do more with my life every time I hear her speaking on here.
I think we all feel that way.
Yeah, we all do.
Who else is on your list of people that you're hoping that you get to interview at some point?
Oh, what a great photo.
Yeah, that was when I first met her. That was me at 33.
Wonderful.
Okay. Yeah, that was when I first met her. I attended a couple of things. Like, I first got hired at Georgia State. Which is my office here on campus. And by the way, I just got my bachelor's at the end of 2020 in psychology, and I'm getting ready to apply for my doctorate pretty soon. But the first baby step is to take some post-bac things and build up some experience in the lab, because I really like to get my feet wet in research. But
congratulations.
People on the show I'd like to have. If I had a dream, I'd love to talk to Greta Thunberg.
Yeah,
Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg. I've already interviewed Temple twice. And Temple, if you hear this, you are more than welcome to be back on my show. You are a delight to have on. I had Haley Moss on the show in 2020. I was supposed to be on a panel with her, with a group of other women. We were talking about autism and employment, and unfortunately, that didn't work out. Other people I'd like to have on the show: Dr. Daniel Wendler. I've presented alongside him a couple of times. You know Daniel Wendler, right?
Yeah, we've had him on the show a long time ago.
Yeah. Anita Lasko. Do you guys still keep up with Anita?
You know, I haven't talked to her in a while, but I adore her.
Me too.
She's wonderful.
She inspired Shannon to go vegan.
Totally. I'm vegan and way less.
I remember I watched that episode a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I like some of her ideas on there, but no, I'm still not vegan, but I will eat vegan food. It's pretty good.
Oh, she's got an amazing recipe for hot dogs that are made out of carrots, you guys. It's this crazy, it's the one recipe she says, if you're not sure about going vegan, try this recipe. And if you don't like it, okay. But it tasted just like hot dogs, and they're made out of carrots, and it wasn't hard. It's crazy good. So,
but some other guests I want on the show. He's not affiliated with autism, but he has a show on being positive. It's called the Happiness Podcast. His name is Dr. Robert Puff. He's a psychologist.
Well, we'll hashtag him. He needs to know that you want to have him on
Yeah,
your show.
I'd like to have him on the show. I don't know who else. I can't think of anybody else right now.
That's okay.
But
well, we want people to check out your podcast. So one more time before we say goodbye, how can people access it?
So again, go to helloworldwithmaya.podbean.com. That's helloworldwithmaya.podbean.com. And
So-
before we go, I've got to tell you guys. Speaking of pod, I wish that they had sleep pods for adults. It looks like something out of Star Wars.
They do. They do have them for adults. They're full-sized beds, so check them out. Check out
What are
Z
they
Pods.
called?
They're called Z Pods, and
Z-Pods?
they actually, pod beds are a very big deal over in other parts of the country, other parts of the world, like in Asia. It's a very big. They have even
Oh yeah, I know
micro
what those
hotels.
pod beds. You mean like you sleep in pods in those hotels, sleep pods? Yeah.
Exactly. And so when pod beds was coming to the United States, they were looking at all the different applications of where it would be a good place to have them. And they went to an autism dad because so many people in Asia said these are really good for folks that are on the spectrum. And they went to an autism dad and said, can you help us? We want to do some research on this to see if it's true. And of course, they've discovered that I said, I want one. Why wouldn't a kid want one, whether they're on the spectrum or not? But that it also happens to be helpful with sensory issues at bedtime, because we have a great deal of our population that are teens that find themselves sleeping in their closets because they want that sensory devoid environment. So, but they absolutely make them an adult size. So
the solution behind these pod beds is they just block. So they're soundproof and they block out noise.
and they actually create a specific unique sensory environment, because not everybody can deal with the same things. Like some of them feature neon lights inside them. They have fans that you can turn on or off. You can create your own environment.
Yeah, I heard that they look like they have sound machines in there.
They look pretty cool to me.
Cool.
I haven't been in one yet, but they look pretty cool to me. So, but because we had them on the show, I don't know, like 3 weeks ago, and because I thought it was an interesting topic, and yeah, they absolutely make them for adults. They fit a full size twin bed that is adult length. So there you go. And apparently you can stack them like bunk beds. I saw that picture and I was like, oh, but you know what's fun for me is they look very space age. It looks like a compartment on the International Space Station. And
yeah.
And
I think Temple would get excited about those things.
Well, I don't know, but guess who we're having on the show on Monday?
I know. I saw. Like I can do Temple. This is so cool. That's pretty good. I can do her. This is Temple Grandin.
I love that. I love that. You can rival Claire Dane.
Yeah.
who
well, when I was younger, a lot of people said I look like Claire. So.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Now here's another highlight regarding my podcast. I asked her how they got Claire Danes to play Temple, and in the podcast, Grandin said that she said that they heard her doing the voice, and they said, yeah, she doesn't look like me, but she sure sounds like me. So
interesting. Well, there we go.
Well, we encourage everyone to check out your podcast, Miyah. It's been a pleasure talking to you today.
And promise you, we won't wait 2 years for you to come back.
Yeah, I'll try to come back. I'll try to come back every 6 months or so. Yeah.
Okay.
Very cool. I've been in the zone, but I thought, you know what? Maybe I should start coming back more often. You're right.
I thought it was great you reached out. You know, that perseverance is probably why you're successful at the things that you do. And it totally reminded me. I was like, well, why haven't we had her on for 2 years? So I was thrilled to see your message. So
and good luck on your podcast tour. Have a great time on your podcast tour.
Thank you. And remind me, Nancy, right?
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Maya. It's been a pleasure.
And I'm all the
Absolutely.
way. Y'all are up in California. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. Where are you guys based out of? Los
So we're
Angeles.
both in the Los Angeles area.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the
Oh,
valley,
nice.
San Fernando Valley.
Yeah, I'm in Atlanta. I'm right downtown Atlanta right now, and I'm on campus at Georgia State. So,
Okay.
and then
There
you
you go.
look, you see my fun office.
It's
Got
awesome.
Leonard Nimoy back there. You saw my picture of Temple and I from 2014.
Yeah.
It's an
Yeah, when
awesome.
my aunt was alive, she had that picture blown up, and she put it on a frame at home. And I told her not to do it, but that inspired me. So
Absolutely. Well, you know what I keep here is my Grandin cow. It's signed
she
by her.
did she? Oh, that's really nice of Miss Grandin. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have more book. I have more books. Okay, excuse me. One more thing.
It's
Actually,
show and tell.
I
What have you
can't.
got, Nancy?
Oh, I can't find it.
It's all right. We're almost
Virgin.
out of time.
She signed this one at a conference a year in person. Yeah, she signed this. Her book Emergent.
Oh,
It's so good.
Look
fantastic.
at that signature. What a bold signature.
Yeah,
Yes.
make sure Temple sees this. Hey Temple, can't wait. Come back to Atlanta. No more virtual. Come back. I want to see you in person. You're really funny.
Well, I've got one more question.
Sure.
You're doing this wonderful podcast. Do you know who we interviewed yesterday was Temple Grandin's mother? Do you ever feature
Yeah, that's what you
mothers?
said earlier on the show.
Do you ever
I would
feature
love to
mothers on your
interview Mrs.
podcast?
Cutler. I'm yet to meet Mrs. Cutler. I mean, I'd love to meet her in person. Actually, she seems like
She's
a wonderful
amazing.
person.
But a lot of times when people, I understand it, but a lot of times when people are doing things about on the spectrum, you don't really necessarily want to hear from the moms. Because, Nancy and I are moms too. We're available to be on your podcast, but I have a feeling we're too passe.
Oh, yeah. Well, you guys are welcome on the show. I've been wanting you on the show, Shannon, because I've been on your show twice now.
I would be happy to come on the show. I'm sure Nancy would too.
Yeah.
And probably Eustacia probably would be too.
Yeah.
So
I would
anyway.
love her on the show. And then one other person I want on the show is Nick Maley, that Yoda guy. He's on the spectrum too. So
I don't know him.
I don't know him either. Anyway, we're out of time. Traven's going to get the hook, but it's been so
Bye,
fun
guys.
talking with you. Good luck with the dating.
Yes, and with the
And the
podcast
relationship.
work.
Speaking of which, I'm hoping he texted me back. So see you
Okay.
later.
Okay. Thumbs up.
Bye, Maya.
All right. You take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching Autism Live. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.